Welcome to our open house. We're just going to, you'll be able to meet us all as we go through the presentation, and we'll just give you kind of a brief, well, hopefully brief overview. We don't want to keep you guys too long on your Friday nights for our tutorial for 2025-2026. So we'll just welcome to our open house. You'll get to meet the tutors tonight. We're going to give a little bit of an overview of homeschooling just because, we were all kind of, with the pandemic and everybody used to call homeschooling. Well, it wasn't really homeschooling, but when they had their kids at home, they thought they were homeschooling, but it was a little bit different than what homeschooling really is. So we'll go over a little bit what that is. We'll give you a tentative schedule and a list of the courses that we're hoping to offer, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. All right, so I'm Karen Cross. I have a master's. I'm a certified IEW instructor. I've done that for about 6 years online. I started off in co-ops. I've been homeschooling for 12 years. I have 4 kids, been married for 25, coming up on the silver anniversary here. Like I said, I've participated in co-ops, helped to run co-ops here and there, had another tutorial. And we have, some land with turkeys and chickens. We have a dog, and my son actually just got a new puppy, so that's really fun. We have a couple cats and lizards, so got to keep those babies away from those cats. I like to crochet, read, and go on nature walks with my family. So that's me. All right, I think we have Crystal next.
Great. Hi, I'm Crystal. I have a bachelor's in elementary education and liberal arts. I've been homeschooling my kids since the beginning for 16 years. I have one who's graduated and is in college, 2 that I'm currently homeschooling, 11th grade and 8th grade, soon to be a senior and a high school freshman. I've participated in and ran co-ops and tutorials. I began teaching book clubs or literature classes online during 2020 to encourage reading and discussions between kids, especially mine, who would rather have been online with their friends and not doing anything educational necessarily. I'm also a former unit leader for American Heritage Girls. I am a musician. I love playing the flute and singing. And welcome.
Yeah, you help with the band. Yeah, huge helper with the band in the area. If you guys have ever heard of the band, Crystal's involved with that and helps with that. And if you don't know what that is, make sure you ask her if you want to get involved. Okay. Brandy's up next.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Brandy Garcia. I have a degree in Spanish. I've been learning, and I say learning Spanish, right, for over 30 years because you never stop learning a language. My newest venture is translating at my church. So that's been interesting, learning all kinds of new vocabulary. I also teach Spanish at CSM for adults and with their homeschool program. I tutor adults, tutor children in Spanish. I've been homeschooling for 9 years. I have a 15-year-old son who has ADHD and dyslexia. And I like to kind of put that out there just because I am comfortable working with children that have special needs. I also have a 9-year-old who is very active young man. Actually, he's 8. He'll be 9 next week. We've been counting down. I participate in my church with the leadership, with Sunday school, doing social networking and admin. We too have too many animals, too many dogs, birds, and bunnies. I love being a mom, a wife, reading, and practicing my Spanish. And it's a pleasure to see you all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Miss Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sees. I am a military spouse, and so we have been thankfully stationed here for quite a few years and will still be here for a while. I'm a children's ministry director at my church, so I help with kids between ages 3 and 12, and then also work with a lot of the youth who work in my department as helpers. I have twin girls. They're 13 and 2 very, very different people. We are wrapping up our 5th year of homeschooling this year and absolutely loving it. I literally grew up thinking, history field trips are what people did for fun. And that's what we still do. We have a dog, a cat, and some fish. But my huge love is doing reading aloud to my kids or other kids, reading myself or crafting. So
Thank you.
exciting.
Thank you. All right. You're up.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name's Eric. Um, I have some education. I've been in the academia for quite a long time. I'm also a naval aviator. I've been in the United States Navy for 20 years. So I'm pretty familiar with math and physics and various other hard sciences. Um, we started homeschooling our children as soon as they were born, essentially, because we were moving so frequently and we were always stationed in places where school systems were not the greatest. So our kids had never been to public school before or any other kind of school. And I've assisted in homeschooling in a variety of different ways. For the last 2 years, I've been full-time homeschooling my 13-year-old daughter. And my claim to fame is that I have a Y chromosome. So that's me.
I have to say, my son loves that. So, yeah, his math teacher. All right. Thanks, Eric. All right, Ms. Pat.
All righty. So I'm Pat Bonnet, and I will be teaching ASL. I also have a master's, and I'm a mom to 5 children, ages 35 through soon to be 22, and all of them were homeschooled all the way through high school. And we were successful enough that 4 of them have their college degrees, and the youngest one has his associates, and now he's just working on completing his bachelor's. I teach in several co-ops and tutorials, depending, everyone calls them something different. And I've been teaching sign language. Karen is covering my little thing. I think it says 20 years, but like Brandy, I've been learning for 35 years, and I also interpret in our church services. And yes, there are lots of different vocabularies depending on what you're doing. So my purpose in teaching is to get my students to enjoy signing, to have an appreciation for deaf culture, and then to gain some confidence so that.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's it.
Uh-oh.
What?
Did Pat freeze or was it just me, you guys?
She froze for me.
A little bit.
Oh,
Just the
no.
last
Mhm.
just your last sentence.
I'm here. Okay. Yeah, because I don't see me at all.
Just repeat your last sentence. You said gain
Yeah, there was-
confidence, and then we
Oh,
froze.
okay. So yeah, so my goal in teaching is to make sure that the kids have a knowledge of the language and appreciate the deaf culture, and that they're comfortable and confident in communicating with any deaf or hard of hearing people that they might meet.
Awesome. There we go. I'm glad you repeated. That was great. Okay. All right. Miss Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah, and I have a bachelor's in computer science. And 15 years ago, I quit my full-time programming job to homeschool my kids. I have 3 kids. My oldest is in college now in her 2nd year full-time down at Regent. Likes to go to the beach down there. My second oldest is about to graduate high school this year, heading into the Air Force very soon. And my last child is in middle school. She'll be in 8th grade next year. So I've taught in a couple of different co-ops over the years that we've been homeschooling. And recently I have taught a lot of high school students in the area of computer science, digital literacy. I've also taught different sciences to elementary and middle school. I even taught some art to elementary school. That was so fun. And public speaking during COVID online, and even drama online during COVID. So there we go. Let's see, I didn't put all my pets on here, but I have 3 cats and 1 dog now. I love everything outdoors, classical music and cats, but honestly, every single kind of animal that doesn't kill you. It's kind of my favorite. So
that's a good little caveat there. Very good. I'm just impressed with the whole drama during COVID online kind of thing.
It was an
that
adventure.
was impressive.
It was so
You
fun.
bet.
And it was an adventure, and it turned out really great too.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, and last but not least, we have Lauren.
Hello, my name is Lauren. I am the mother of 5 children, ranging from 16 to 3, 3 girls and 2 boys. I've been homeschooling since 2017. And since that time, I've participated in and taught the preschool and early elementary programs through co-ops. I am the church primary education president, so that's the Sunday school organization for our church for children ages 3 to 11. I love sewing and food preservation, so canning from our garden. I love gardening and emergency preparedness, and we have chickens and bees.
I'm interested in the bees. All right. Anyway, maybe that's a class down the line. I don't know. All right. Thank you guys so much. All right. So, like I was kind of saying at the beginning, homeschooling is not like what it was during the pandemic, if that's what you're familiar with. This is really instruction at home where the parents are the primary educators. And in Maryland, you're just providing instruction on the subjects that are taught in school. Doesn't have to be a certain level or anything like that. It just means that you have to provide some ongoing instruction to your child in all of those subject areas. Ways that you can find help are through co-ops, pods, and tutorials. And the difference is that a co-op or a pod is really like a group of parents that are getting together and sharing their gifts and talents with each other. The parent is always, whether you're in a tutorial or co-op or a pod, the parent is always the one that's responsible for documenting the learning. You can, grab information from the person that's helping you teach that particular thing, but you ultimately are responsible for collecting all of that and making sure the state knows what you're doing. Usually in a co-op or a pod, you have some volunteer hours that are required, or, the parents are expected to remain on site with the children when they're taking their classes. And if there's any money that's exchanged, it's normally just for the materials. You normally don't pay the person that's helping you with those subjects. You're normally not paying them for their time. But for a tutorial, something like what we're doing, we call ourselves tutors. We try to kind of stay away from the whole teacher thing, just because it's really more about like helping you as the parent and not taking over, and still the parent is responsible for the documenting everything. Most of the time in a tutorial, the parents can be just off site, which is what we do. That's why we ask for all that registration information, that we have numbers and names, emergency information and things like that if we ever need to reach you if something happens. There's also, you would have to register at CSM, and they have their own fee through them. And then any money that's exchanged, it could be for the tutor, for their time. It could be for materials, anything like that are needed for instruction. So guys, if I'm missing anything, please let me know. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat, parents, or, just wait until the end and you can unmute and ask then. All right. So our schedule is that we're meeting on Thursdays at the College of Southern Maryland at the La Plata campus. And what we really try to do is go 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Some people might be like, why do you do that? Trust us, you'll thank us later. Actually, I don't even know. I think it's actually more than 4 classes at this point that we're looking to hold off campus. There's just not enough time in the day to offer kind of everything that we want and you guys have asked for the next year. So we'll get into more detail. That some of the classes might be held on Fridays at Calvary Grace Academy of God in La Plata. Maybe on Fridays. We're not absolutely positive about that, but we're hopeful that that's going to happen. Sarah can give us more information when we get there for the schedule. So now the teachers that teach these particular courses are just going to give you a very quick rundown on what to expect. And so that you guys, kind of know that ahead of time. Let's see, Lauren, you want to chat about circle time real quick?
Sure. So circle time would be for the pre-K through second grade age range. It's going to be like a structured community learning time where we'll gather in a circle and we'll have time to communicate, have practice listening and learning in a community setting and taking turns with our friends and learning different things together. There'll be activities such as songs and stories and games and things. There will be a theme every week. And we'll do things such as like calendar and weather and those type of things that I don't know if there's any questions about circle time. I think that's all I had for it.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So Sarah, you wanted to take this one?
Sure. The other class that we plan on offering for that pre-K to second grade time is story time. We will be using Read Aloud Revival and their family book club guides as kind of a basis for our classes. Brandy will be helping me, and we will be kind of covering classic fairy tales, and closer to Christmas, we'll try to do Christmas Carol, and then James Herriot's Animal Treasury for Children in the Spring. We will have coloring pages to go with the stories, handwriting practice, and looking closely videos for the children to dig deeper into those stories.
You guys are making me want a 4 to 7-year-old. All right. All right, Brandy, go ahead.
I was thinking the same thing. I need a baby
again.
Yeah. Okay, so I am going to be teaching It's a Big World. I created this class, I think about 2 years ago, and it was just out of the love of animals from my soon-to-be 9-year-old. He loves animals. And I said, well, we can't just keep learning about animals. We have to add some stuff to it. So what we do is we kind of go all over the world looking for interesting animals, things that you don't really hear about every single day. We just spent the last 2 weeks at the Galapagos Island, and we've been looking at like stuff with Charles Darwin, and we've been talking about evolution. And so we were just going to travel the world, and the basis is kind of starts with the animals. I find an animal that's really interesting, and it just takes me to the country that it might be associated with or a region, and then we talk about continents and the oceans and all kinds of fun things.
All kinds of fun things.
Yes,
Love
good
it.
stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now we're getting up to what we call the upper elementary 8 to 11-year-olds. And Mrs. Kajeski does the book club.
So book club, especially for the upper elementary grades, we read 4 books in a year. And so they come to the first class having read the first probably 3 chapters. And then we do introductions to each book. We do backgrounds on the author, maybe what the themes are. We talk about different vocabulary and comprehension. And usually it's just a really nice time for the kids to read stories that are wholesome and good for them and talk about what they like or don't like. And then it just really, it sounds awful, but it kind of forces, especially kids who don't enjoy reading, it really helps broaden their minds to the fact that books are fun. And those that love to read, love to discuss their books with their friends. So there's a whole spectrum of kids and books and just talking about the different things and the different places you can go. As in with all the book clubs, so for elementary, middle, and high school, the themes will all be different. But generally, we talk about life lessons appropriate for their age, of course. So in our, in our littles book club right now, we're actually reading, I'm Catholic, and so I like to choose Catholic saint books usually for our last one. We don't talk about, the Catholic faith in general, or anybody has to believe a certain thing. That's not how we roll around here. But generally, people who are trying to figure out what God has intended for them. So we're learning about St. Francis of Assisi, and we were talking about just practical ways that Francis went from being an absolute jerk to the person on the street to how we can change ourselves as well. And just kind of what we can do as human beings who live on this planet to make life better for other people as well. So be kind, smile at others, make sure you're including people who you may or may not know very well, and just generally how practically to live on this planet with other people and be a good human.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And I teach the IEW classes. I wanted to offer adventures in writing this past year, but it just didn't quite fit in with the schedule, but it will next year. So I'm really excited about that. Actually teaching this course this year online. And it's a great introduction course to IEW for this age level. It moves, pretty slowly, a lot slower than what I'm used to with the normal IEW pace. If you're used to that, it covers all sorts of different topics, and it's the first book in the Hillsdale curriculum. So IEW has started developing books to go with the Hillsdale curriculum, and it's the first one in that. So I'm kind of, IEW, you can never help too much, Andrew Pudwa says, and I'm definitely on board with that. So don't feel like your child has to do all the writing on their own. You can write it with them, totally fine. You can get a grade or not get a grade. I give pretty detailed feedback on writing assignments, and it's all included in the pricing that you'll see later on. So I usually want to make sure that the parents communicate with me, because writing is can be, if it's difficult for somebody, it can be a very personal thing too. It's almost like their art and they don't want anybody to touch it. So if you just communicate with me and need to slow things down or speed things up or whatever, I'm usually pretty good with that. So anyway, great introductory course, I think, to writing. All right. C's for history science.
All right. So for history and science, we're going to kind of combine them this year. We will be doing space science from the good and the beautiful as kind of like the basis of our year of exploration of space. I actually covered this unit with my kids right when they were in this age group. We deep dived into all kinds of space things. And so I'm excited to offer it to another group of kids because I had so much fun teaching it. So we will be doing the science part of things, but then also looking at history with different astronomers, and then explorers now, in space, more modern.
So thank you. Thank you. All right. Learn the recorder. Crystal, you're up again.
Like, I don't know where my mouse is. Sorry. So I love to play music. I've been playing the flute for a really long time, since I was 10. I won't give you the number, but it was a long time. I still play in the band. Ask me how you can get involved as a parent. Just saying. Anywho, so learning the recorder, I've found that when kids learn music when they're younger, it does this thing in their brain where it gets their right brain and their left brain all attached and everything else. And so I can't play piano. I tried really, really hard in college. I took lessons and everything else. So I figured if I can offer something such as the recorder, sorry, you're going to have that in your house if you join. And yes, they will eventually get better. I promise the squeaks will stop. But it really gives them confidence to learn how to translate from their hands to the blowing, to reading music off of a page, to keeping tempo. So it's not just music, it's a lot of physical coordination. And so learning the recorder really does a lot for their general growth. And so it might seem to some like, we'll just, listen to music or whatever. But you can have somebody else have the tortures. I mean, so much fun job of those first few weeks of blowing through the recorder. We learn about hygiene, by the way. I talk about like how to give your recorder a bath. I already have the classroom actually set up because I'm so excited about it for next year. And I found a book. Anyway, so playing the recorder is really fun. And then from when you play the recorder, if you end up playing a woodwind instrument, the fingerings actually cover the same holes. They turn to the side or down below. You could play brass. I mean, there are some of you, we need you to. So anywho, so learn the recorder. I'm going to teach it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Sorry.
I was super excited when you said that. I was like, oh yeah, recorder. Intro to band. All right. 11 to 13-year-olds, middle school, history. Go ahead, Miss C's.
All right. So I will be covering history this year for the middle schoolers. We will be covering using the Knotgrass curriculum, Add 'em to Us, part one. I definitely look at history where I would rather slow down and not breeze through an entire book. I'd rather slow it down so we can, really deep dive into specific time periods and subjects and different things like that. So we will be covering that. I also do something with the kids where they watch World Watch News, which is like a 10-minute news report that the kids watch during the week, and they get to keep up with current events. And the class that I have right now loves doing it. It's a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to doing that again next year.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Kajeski.
All right. So now we have middle school book club. So middle school book club, we choose books that are more appropriate to middle school themes. Unfortunately, there's like a lot of death. I'm sorry, but in book club, those life lessons that we learn through books, of like not everything is hunky dory. It's not all, well, I would say fairy tales, but those are pretty gory too. But anywho, so generally the books that I choose for book club, they have themes, life lessons in them. Sometimes we'll choose fantasy. And in this case, they normally will go as much as possible with the history that Mrs. C's teaches, at least a portion of them. I haven't figured out all the books yet. And then usually with some of the writing with Mrs. Cross's IEW. So it's a little bit more integrated to a degree so that at least we're in the general time period of each other. But I'm not sure how many ancient books I can find necessarily, or more like medieval. I loved medieval times. We had French food for one of them. That was really fun. So usually there's either 4 to 5 books, depending on what we find that fits the content. And of course, reading has to be done before class. We have discussions and everything else, very similar to the younger book club, but more mature for middle school ages and more in-depth analysis as to like the themes. So I think right now we just finished Where the Red Fern Grows. Oh, tearjerker. But really we got to talk about the the person versus self, a person versus person, or person versus nature, and then give different examples from the book to figure out which theme really appropriately matched. So it's nice. The kids were really able to see very clearly the themes. So I know that they're really understanding it. And even though it was a tearjerker, everybody loved it. They were passionate about it at the end. So that was really nice. So it's all good.
Thank you. My son has loved those classes. All right. So next, the next two are mine actually. And I just realized some of you might not know what IEW stands for. It's the Institute for Excellence in Writing, and it's just a particular writing program that helps kids kind of organize information according to the purpose of why they're writing, and then slowly integrates stylistic techniques to make their sentences sound better. So it's a lot of hands-off content and hands-on the style. So it's not as much as telling kids what exactly they're going to write, but how they want to present it and write it. So my dream, and I think our dream kind of, was to integrate writing into, the subject areas. But that would pose a problem for those who weren't maybe taking the other classes. So we just kind of figured if I could do the IEW book, that the ancient history book, and then it would automatically just kind of integrate into history, hopefully line up as much as possible for that. And then like Mrs. Kajeski said, lining up book clubs. So like I said from before, just make sure, you're working with me if your child takes this course and needs a little extra something as far as like the feedback goes and the checklists and the rubrics. If they need a little bit more of a challenge, or maybe not so much of a challenge, ancient history is a pretty decent beginner IEW course for this age level. It doesn't move super fast, and the texts that are used, the information that's used is pretty decent. I think that's a good starting point. The tech tools projects was just something I kind of threw in to see if there was interest, and it kind of blew up. So This was something I put in there because in my writing classes, I'll add like a project to go with my writing assignments, just an extra something optional that they can do. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just see if people want to do it outside of class. So I'll use things like Google Slides mostly to have the kids come up with like a fake Instagram project. So they're not on Instagram on that social media, but it looks like it. And they get to design that according to some of their, assignments from the IEW classes. I've done other things like ebooks, which are pretty simple thing to start off with. We've done a podcast one. What was the other one? That might have been it. But I think the podcast one doesn't, I think I might go into Canva with that one rather than Google because you can just record right in Canva. So anyway, those are just some of the things, but I won't have the ideas for the actual content. So this will be a class where they're using information from another class. It could be a class from the tutorial or it could be a class from home. So a subject area that, they want, if it's a book maybe they're reading or some history they're studying or something, but they would bring that information from outside of class and bring it into class. They'd need a laptop, to work on it in class. And we'll just kind of go through the different projects, piece by piece and kind of help them to put the information together into one of these projects. So that was that class. And then we have Hannah for algebra. And I'm just gonna switch the screen. She'll explain why.
All right, so I'm going to be teaching Algebra 1 next year, and we'll be using Math-U-See curriculum for that, which is, it's going to provide a really solid foundation for the upper level mathematics. Math-U-See scope and sequence is a little bit smaller than some other curriculum at that level, but I find that the students that go through and actually understand what they're doing are much more successful when they hit something that has a larger scope and sequence. So the students who will be eligible for Algebra 1 will be the ones who've gone through and done all the elementary mathematics. And that I can give out information closer to time about the skill sets that they'll need to be able to start Algebra 1 for next year. So depending on your student and depending on their mathematics background, will depend on their age. So it could be you have a 12-year-old who's ready for Algebra 1. More likely 13-year-olds are more ready, but sometimes it's 14 or 15 or 16-year-olds that are ready. So this class will truly span, the age levels that are necessary for those students who need the math credit. So it will count for a high school credit of math. And yeah, I'm actually kind of happy to be able to provide math to the homeschooling community. I think that's something that is underserved or under available. It's hard to come by. So I'm excited to be able to do this with you guys.
Thank you so much. We are too. All right. And Eric has the next couple lines here.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to be using Math-U-See for geometry as well. It is a fairly solid high school geometry. It's got a very hands-on approach, which is a really good thing. And it covers the solid foundation of geometry, including some trigonometry and coordinate geometry and things like that. What it doesn't do is it doesn't really go in depth into theory, and it doesn't really go into depth on a lot of formal proofs. So for this reason, anyone who's looking for a very solid, like competitive college prep geometry, I would say you would want to supplement. This curriculum alone probably would prepare you pretty well for the SAT or ACT. But there's if you're looking for something like a very STEM heavy college prep, this geometry would be insufficient all by itself. So that being said, it's a very appropriate for any high schooler, anyone who's had, especially who's already finished algebra, that would be highly recommended. Um, it's got, a pretty rigorous, but very sequential approach, and that's what Matthew C is pretty known for. It's a very structured approach, and it builds mastery over time. So that is geometry. For biology, we're using Apologia. Um, this course is very rigorous. It's got, a lot of vocabulary. It's got 28 labs within it. I'm not certain that we'll get through 28 of those, but we're going to be doing a lot of labs. It's also very good at really encouraging critical thinking. Um, I would also say it's pretty good at it's a very approachable biology. So it doesn't require you to be already steeped in hard science. It's a great and a very strong introductory biology course for college prep students. I think most people who have really done like comparisons would agree that apology is a pretty solid college prep biology course. So that's the overview of the two classes that I have going for me. So thanks.
You. All right. Crystal, you again.
Me again. So this particular class, I've never taught high school literature by myself. So actually, Karen and I taught our kids during 2020 on the internet, my oldest, who's now in college. So we just had the two of them and we read actually Uncle Tom's Cabin. So we will not be reading that in the very first year of literature for high school. I don't think that that's going to fly. Not yet. Anyway, but eventually they are going to have to read at least 5 books. It may be 6. There will be analysis and discussion, very similar to what we do in middle school. However, there will be homework besides, I say just the reading, because there's plenty of reading, but there has to be some sort of at-home thought that happens before they come into class, so they can think through these, maybe these larger issues of whatever comes up in our books, and then be able to discuss them in groups, have small group discussions, and then larger group discussions. There'll be vocabulary and comprehension, as well as other homework assignments that need to be completed outside of class. And they will go along with some of the other high school courses that we'll talk about when we get to the off-campus information with Mrs. Cross and Mrs. Seves.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Miss Pat, you want to take ASL? You're muted. Were you going to sign for us? Because I can't interpret that.
No, I was not going to do that. I didn't want to annoy people. I mean, I can if you want, but so we're going to be using, it's a college text. It's the text that I used when I first started learning, and it's called A Basic Course in American Sign Language, and it's by Humphreys, Patton, and O'Rourke. And it's very focused on the language, the syntax, the grammar, very heavy on vocabulary. Generally, in year 1, I cover chapters 1 through 11, and then year 2, I would cover 12 through 22. In addition to what's in the book, we focus a lot on finger spelling. Each week, they have a finger seek, so it's a word search using the manual alphabet. Most of the students like those. Every once in a while, I have someone who does not prefer them, but it's a way of training their eyes to see the various handshakes that they're going to be using in finger spelling. And since all of our signs are handshapes as well, it's getting their hands and their eyes ready for that. Let's see. In addition to what's in the book, I'm going to be giving them information on deaf culture, so they'll have things that they'll be reading and preparing outside of class. I am approaching this as if it's going to be a language credit for a student, so it will be graded. Let's see, what else? I have them do scripture memory every week, just because it gives them a chance to practice small things that they can then come back and sign. I don't know, Cora, Crystal, anything else you want to add, given what you experience with your kids? Nope, she must have.
Anna,
That's
Anna,
what I call it.
Annabelle's here. Actually, Annabelle's been one of Pat's students, and next year we're working on getting her into Northern Virginia Community College, hopefully to study sign there, because she's grown so much. She's gone from the shy kid in the corner to using her face and her whole body as expression. So things are coming along. No, I think you covered most everything. Just know that there is homework and it's something that's required to do. And if you don't, kind of like every other, especially the high school classes, you put into it what you get out of it. So if your child is not doing their homework, kind of like anything else, they really won't do a very great job and they won't learn as much as they could. And we're here as tutors really to support everything that the kids want to do in life. And we're trying to give of our time and our talent so that we can create a community where we have, educated people in all different ways. So we all are here together. So thanks. I'll stop talking now.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. Very good. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I think the major theme with all these, and of course, there's the Tech Tools project. I just kind of went over that. I was just going to kind of combine middle school and high school. So depends on how many kids end up being registered for that one. And if we have room at CSM, I might have to split that one up, but that's another problem for another day. But yeah, the high school classes, all of the tutors are dedicated to making this, a credit for your children. As far as providing, with the ideas that you would need and the material and the extra help to get those hours in. But again, like I said at the beginning, it's up to you just to make sure that they have that. Because usually a high school course is like 120 hours if you don't know that. But with these classes, you should get to that. So, okay. These are the off-campus courses that we were offering, which is a lot more than what we did this past year. So, Sarah, do you want to Sarah kind of started this for us, so I'll let her kind of take over.
Sure. We found that we had a group of kids that we still wanted to offer things to, but we ran out of hours in the day at CSM. So, hopefully the goal is that we will meet at Calvary Grace Assembly of God, on Route 6, on Fridays is the goal. If not, we'll offer them virtually, but we're very hopeful to be able to offer these classes in person. One of the classes will be high school health. We will be covering health in the human body. We will also have weekly mental health assignments and things like that. There will be a mandatory field trip to the National Museum of Health and Medicine, which isn't too far away. And then that'll culminate in like a final project that they will choose from that field trip for, a half a credit for health for the year. The other thing I plan on offering is high school Knotgrass World History, Part 1. It'll be creation through the Middle Ages. I forgot to mention it before while I cover history. I do take history from a biblical worldview. But religion isn't part of it. It's just that we do take a biblical worldview as I'm going through history. So we will be using Knotgrass history for that. There will be reading outside of class, and then the kids will come to class to have discussion and things like that, and presenting different projects. So yeah, that'll be high school history.
Yes, I really hope that works out. Looking forward to that. Again, I was hoping to integrate the writing assignments into the classes, but as you can see, it was a little bit difficult because we only have so much room at CSM. If we have literature on one day and history on another day, people might not be able to make it, etc. So I taught volume 2 of Narnia this year, and they have some really, really great assignments. But if you have not had experience with IEW before, I'm not sure I completely recommend this class. It moves pretty quickly through the stylistic techniques. If your child has a firm foundation in grammar and has had, some writing experience, talk to me. I like to be able to kind of, scaffold the assignments and things like that if I need to. It is a little bit extra work, but if it's something that you're like, my kid would really, really, really love this, please let them into class. Just talk to me. But I don't normally recommend it for first year, but I can work with you if we have to. Um, and it is volume 2, so it doesn't cover that first chunk of the Narnia series. The other thing, so I also teach writing online. So I will be offering ancient history virtually. So if your child is in high school, never had IEW before, and you want them to take a class with me, I can talk to you about that. I give the discounts in my classes. So if you come to me through the tutorial, I'll give you the tutorial prices for those online classes. So you don't have to worry about, if it's going to cost you extra, because they are more when I teach the virtual classes. So those are the two options. I actually will also be offering the volume 2 Narnia class virtually, and probably volume 1 as well. So if any of those sound, like something your high schooler would want, there's a little bit of everything in there. And if you're like, I don't have no idea where to start my kid, just let me know and we can chat about it. And then, so those are like high school classes, but then we may also have some stuff for the little guys.
So the next class on here is called Creating a Masterpiece. It's an art class that I have taught this year. It will only be available if we are able to meet in person. I'm not teaching art online. It's too hard because art's meant to be done and not critiqued, but there's those little nuances of art that you need to do in person. So we've had some really good success this year, but some of the things that we've definitely learned is that sitting in one place and taking instruction at a particular pace and listening skills are very important. So though a 9-year-old may be able to do this art in a classroom setting, it's not for every 9-year-old. So if you have a 9-year-old who is dedicated and creative, but doesn't listen well, or necessarily sit still, it's really difficult for them to be super successful. Now, if you did it at home, that would be awesome. So we'll see what happens. About 9 to 13 years old for this particular class, just so maybe the younger ones have something to do in person while their either high school or middle school sibling is taking an in-person class. So hopefully we're working that out. And if that doesn't work, I'll see what I can do. There is something from Creating a Masterpiece that if you get 15 people who will pay for their membership for an entire year, you get a group together. It's $35 for the entire year for their entire series, and it's well worth it if you're going to do art at home. But it's not something that you want to do without having a full 15 people commit to. But in person, it would be all the assignments would be chosen by me, all the art supplies and everything would be carted around by me. So you don't have to say, oh, my kid forgot all their stuff today, because I've been the parent who's been like, I'm so sorry they forgot whatever the thing is. So anywho, so Creating a Masterpiece has been wonderful. It's taught us perseverance and not being so hard on ourselves, and that learning is a process. So that's been like the biggest takeaways from art this year.
Thank you. Thank you. My son has loved it. And me too. All right. Brandy.
Yes. So for Spanish, I am thinking two different things. With the elementary level, if there is an interest, I could do an online virtual because, like we said, there's just not enough time on Thursdays to fit everything in. So I am thinking for Spanish elementary level would meet once a week, and we could do that virtually. But if I have interest for high school, I would want them to meet twice a week. All of my experience that I have had over the last couple of years with teaching Spanish to middle school and high school, once a week is just not enough. I feel like they definitely need it more than that. And it'll also be one of those classes where there'll be a curriculum and there'll be homework and lots of studying, and they'll need to put a lot of effort into it so that they can receive credit for the class. So that will be If there is enough interest for the lower level, it would be once a week virtual. And then for the upper level, it would be twice a week. And we'll just keep monitoring the our interest form and kind of put it out there in Facebook and on our Facebook page and see if there's an interest for it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah, because we kind of got, some comments. Hey, how about Spanish for the younger kids? So I was like, Brandy. And, so yes. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up for the classes. So a little bit about we're coming up on an hour, so we'll try to kind of wrap this up for you. I'm gonna upload this picture. Let's see if I can get it. I don't know if I can upload a picture to the chat. Wait, yes, I can. Aha. Okay. I'm going to send this to you guys in the chat so you can have it for you. You can just save it to your computer or your phone, whatever you need to. So this is a tentative schedule. We're hoping most of it's going to be the way it is here. The thing that might be a little bit different is this right here, the algebra. We're hoping to move it up here if we get a fifth classroom. Okay, so we want to kind of offer it at the same time that the geometry is for high school. It will be an hour and 15 minutes, just like the geometry. We can't get the fifth classroom. This is the time that Algebra 1 will be offered. We're really hoping and praying. So if you guys can join with us in doing that, that we get the 9:15 slot. If we can get that fifth classroom for that hour, that'd be great. So notice all the times over here are for high school. So we try to keep the high school classes at an hour and 15 minutes. We just need that additional 15 minutes because, you're looking at transition times and things like that. All the pricing information is also on here. Your high school classes will have grading. So that's why those are a little bit more. Yep. Sorry. ASL. Thank you. Is an hour and a half. This yellow is just for high school. All of the rest of these will end at 3:00. This is their time over here. Okay. So all of these classes will end. This is the big thick black line here. All of these classes will end at 3, but ASL will end at 3:30. So your pickup time will be a little bit later if you're taking that class. So anyway, the IEW all include grades and feedback. So that's why that's a little bit more than the other classes. And like I said, for history, high school also might have more classes for high school, work in between. Eric, when he was doing Algebra 1, it was like practically weekly. For math, he met virtually with our kids in between our weeks, that we had off and stuff. So it is considerably more of their time that they're offering to you to offer those high school classes. So, and this is all per semester. All of these classes are per semester. The materials is probably just a one-time thing, unless, your tutor is doing things by semester. Everything is paid through the tutor directly. Our Town Tutorial is just, I think Brandy threw that name out there. I was like, that's an awesome name. So it's just like us collectively, we just kind of work together, bounce ideas off of each other. We're here supporting each other, but it's very tutor. You're going to be in contact with your tutor. They have their own, pricing. Of course, it's mostly about the same, but you'll have to contact them about materials. They either will get that for you and include that in the cost, or they'll tell you what to buy if you need materials. So that is that. And then tentatively, these are the dates for next year. I can send that in the chat too. But this is, tentatively those dates because we're still waiting. I mean, I checked the CSM website to see when their fall starts and ends and spring starts and ends. Their spring starts on January 20th. And when we found that out this year, we were like, uh-oh, wait a minute. We were going to start earlier. It was actually kind of nice to have a little bit of extra time after Christmas. So it really wasn't as bad as I thought. And notice we're still ending on May 7th. So every semester is about 12 weeks, and we try to go 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Sometimes there might be 4, sometimes there might be 2. It just depends. And this includes 2 weeks off for Easter, around Easter. We did that this year, and that's been really nice for everybody to plan, family time and things like that. So that's just a tentative thing. Don't like mark your calendar and pen and go, okay, we can go on vacation here and buy cruise line tickets or things like that. Please don't do that yet. We will let you know. We'll let you know when CSM lets us know, what dates exactly that we have. All right. And then, just to thank you so much, you guys, for, filling out the interest form. It really, really, really helps us to figure out where it's worth our time to put into. We need to know what you guys want in order to offer things. So we really appreciate that participation. And thanks for coming tonight, because otherwise we'd just be talking to ourselves. So the next thing you'll look for is an email, or even on our Facebook page, we'll put a link out to apply. So the process is that you apply to our town tutorial with those particular classes. We generally stick to like the first come first serve. We look at, who was first, and then we look at, if we think everything's going to be a good fit. And then once you apply and we're like, yeah, okay, you're accepted and all that. You've had a chance to maybe talk to your tutor about placement, stuff like that. It's mostly that. It's not like, hey, we don't like you, we're not going to take you. But and then you'll get your acceptance email saying you've been accepted. If there's too many kids signed up, you might get a wait list email. We haven't had to do that yet, but I don't know. We might have to next year. I'm not sure. And then once you get your acceptance email, there will be a separate link for the registration. So that's where you'll give us all of the info about your phone numbers and things like that. You'll pay your tutors like a down payment kind of thing. Not really a down payment. What am I trying to say? And get your materials. And then CSM requires you to register as well to use their facilities. We love their facilities. Their overhead projectors typically work for us. We've gotten those kinks out, but it's awesome. I love being able to use that. It's always very clean. The kids have a great place to play outside, right outside one of our classrooms. So you can like literally look out the window and you can just see everybody playing on the grass, and they shove lunch down their throats and then they run outside to get everything out. So, anyway, so that's that. Right now, yeah, it's $15 a child per semester. It's not per family, it's per child per semester. So you have to do it. We have a different registration link every semester for that. So just to kind of calculate that into your budget as well. And that's it. So if you guys, have any questions and you want to unmute or like put it in the chat, otherwise we will let you go. We got it in an hour. I'm so impressed with us. That was a lot of stuff to talk about. So does anybody have any questions? I'll be quiet now. Okay. No, I kind of had one. I have one for Eric. I'm going to put you on the spot.
I have a question too.
Okay.
Once you're done.
Okay. So like Eric, if somebody wanted more for geometry, would you be willing to offer something outside of CSM, like additional stuff using a curriculum, or just you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've looked into like what would be useful for supplementing the Math UC curriculum. If somebody's interested in, say, supplementing and they really want a much more rigorous approach, yeah, please contact me. I'd be very happy to chat about that. I have both sort of supplemental materials as well as an alternative curriculum that's just a lot more rigorous. So yeah, I have options.
Okay, cool. The class fee. So I wasn't really good about putting that on the slide. The class fee, let me just stop the share. The class fee, I don't think any of our class fees included materials, right, guys? I don't think so. Does yours, Crystal?
Recorder does. I will buy your
Recorder, okay.
recorder and your books for that because a recorder is like $10. So that's not too bad. But then I have to print some things. So mine does include that. But generally, everything else, including book club, you buy your own books. IEW, buy your own
Yep.
books.
Yep.
Knotgrass, you need to buy your own book. Your tutor will give you that information. So all of that will come out. Or you can, I mean, you can look online and see about how much, from Adam to Us is, and Matthew, see about how much those things run.
It's a
Yep.
big world, and I think the story time and probably the class for Sarah and I think those are all included because we won't have a whole lot
Okay.
of we won't have a curriculum per se to purchase. And the
Okay,
other thing
good.
I wanted to mention, I
That's a
don't
good
know if we
question.
mentioned, I don't recall us mentioning it, is that this can be totally drop off. If your kid
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to have a full schedule, your child is going to be here, and you want to put them in the whole day. If you only want one class, whatever works for your family is what we can accommodate. This particular year, we had a lunch mom. So a lunch mom that you pay a fee to, and she monitors your child during lunch, so you don't have to come back at lunchtime. They got to play, hang out with their friends, and it's been a really good time. So those are just some things I wanted to mention. And if you have any questions about how that works or drop off or anything like that, we sign everybody in. Um, if you're familiar with CSM's Friday program, we're on that exact same hallway, with the exception of using an upstairs classroom. So the kids get really excited because they feel like they're grown a little bit. They get to travel with their buddies and walk to class, and they can take the elevator. So it's been a very, very good experience, and we've had a lot of success this year.
Yeah,
One,
thank you so much. I forgot to put the lunch thing in there. And
That's
if
okay.
we do have more kids in this year, we might actually have to ask another person to be a lunch
We might need
monitor
another
too.
lunch mom. Yeah.
Yeah, we might. It just depends on how
yeah,
many people want it, but you're more than welcome to stay with your child at lunch too.
Hmm.
yes. And so one more thing to add about lunch is that it doesn't have it on our schedule. I totally didn't, I missed it. But the lunch monitor, who, if you have someone else watching your child, she does receive, or he receives some sort of payment as well, because they're in charge of your kid for that whole hour for safety's sake and all that. So just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
too. It isn't listed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Also, this year, if you were with us this year, we had like a classroom where kids could just kind of come in, do some work. There was most of the time I was in there, and unless I wasn't, but somebody was. And we initially were going to do like study hall and things like that, but it didn't quite kind of work out that way. We If we have an extra classroom, if we have the fifth classroom, we will have a space for parents to sit and talk if you want to, or kids to come in and do work. But if you are not going to be there with your child during the time that they might have a study hall, there will be a fee for that. We don't know, if we're going to have the extra classroom yet, so we can't commit to that yet. But we should. I think Brandy's been in contact and Crystal been in contact with Tony at CSM, and we're hoping within like 4 weeks we'll know for sure. So that the only thing hinging on that is like the schedule. So we had a question here about how big do classes typically get. So that's really up to the tutor and the class. So however many children the tutor is willing to accept into their class is really the answer to that question. I think we capped it at a certain level, but Mrs. C's was like, just let them come. So she took on a little bit more because she was like, I don't want to turn them away. So, because it was only like one or two kids, but so yeah, it really is up to the tutor. Sarah, what was your highest number? Like 15 or something like that?
No, I think we have 11 right now in
11? Okay.
history. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a little bit more than that. All right, cool. So, yeah, just really depends on the tutor.
There's a question in the chat. It says, can we
Yeah.
be on campus while the kids are in class or sit in on a class if there's not a study hall type of
I
setting?
wouldn't recommend sitting in on the class unless I think Lauren was kind of toying with the idea of having parents come in for circle time, but the other classes, it's up to your tutor. It really is like up to the tutor if they're okay with parents coming in. Generally, we don't, just because it can be a little distracting or whatnot. But you're welcome to walk around the campus. I've done that. There's a
There's some
cafeteria, coffee
sitting
shop.
areas
Yeah.
also at the same
Mhm.
in the same area, the same building and off the same
Yep.
hallway. So there's definitely, we're not saying that you have to leave them and just go,
Right.
but you're welcome to
Right.
stay, and then just talk to your tutor to see if you sit in the class or find a place to kind of hang out.
Oh, library. Yeah, there you go.
Brianna said she sits in the library. Yep. Thank you,
Yep.
Brianna.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, then you don't have to travel back and forth and all that jazz, especially if you're only doing maybe like one or two classes or something like that. So hopefully the schedule like works out. Like I said, just really praying for that fifth classroom. That'd be really great. So yeah, those are all really great questions. I forgot about the whole like lunchtime and stuff. So any others? Okay. Cool. All right. Very good. Well, if you guys think of any other questions, please feel free to email or let us know on Facebook and or whatever works for you guys. Okay. Like I said, thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you
Oh, good.
guys.
Thank you, Crystal. Yep. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.